Hello everyone. In an attempt to create a video about some of my frustrations with the new SimCity, I am experiencing an all new frustration in that I've been put in a queue. So I can't even show you what I was originally frustrated about because I have to wait to play my own region. And I'm at work, so I only have about 45 minutes to go, so hopefully I can squeeze this in. Um, but yeah, it's quite ironic, isn't it? Okay, so now we're in. I had no problems getting onto the server this time because it's about 7:30 p.m. here, which makes it anywhere from 3:30 to 6:30 a.m. in the USA. Um, so now I will start talking about the list of frustrations that I originally had, and it all started at this fire station here. So I'll zoom in. And I wanted to expand my commercial area, and I realized that this fire station was right smack in the middle of some prime real estate, and I was thinking maybe I could move it off to this island or somewhere here. So I clicked on it, and my fire coverage is already pretty sparse, so I know I would need to expand it eventually. And I didn't want to expand it here, I actually wanted to move it, but it's very expensive. You can see that a fire station costs about 20,000 simoleons plus each garage is like 15,000. So it'd be really expensive to rebuild that. And I thought, well, if I'm going to rebuild it, I might as well make it count and get the large fire station instead. But in order to get the large fire station, as you can see, you need a Department of Safety in the region. And at the time, I had a Department of Transportation connected to my city hall. So I thought that I would replace the Department of Transportation with the Department of Safety. So I bulldozed the Department of Transportation office, which is right here, and I clicked the City Hall like I'm doing now, and that was still my only option. So I realized that once you build your City Hall, and once you build your department that that city will specialize in, you are stuck with that decision. And there's no turning back. And so I thought, well, screw it, I'll just bulldoze the whole city hall and start anew. Well, that doesn't work either. And in fact, when I did bulldoze my city hall, I had um, an oil pump over here. And so when I went to rebuild my city hall, it wouldn't let me build it on this road because apparently it was fine being there in the first place, but they won't let you put things along a road if it might be blocking any of the ploppables that you can add later. So that was extra frustrating because it's like, gosh, it was already there. Why can't I just put it back? So what I ended up doing is I was zoomed in pretty close, and there was this one oil rig that was in the way. And so my view was kind of like this. I mean, it would make more sense if it was right here, but it was like this. And I thought, well, I'll just bulldoze this one rig. It's no big deal. Just one oil well, not a big deal. So I went to bulldoze it like I'm doing now, and I clicked it, and it said the following buildings will be bulldozed. Oil well. Okay, that's fine. Just the one oil well. Not oil field, not oil plant, just oil well. Well, I clicked I'll do it, and that was a huge mistake because it blew up this whole thing. And unlike all the other SimCities, you can't exit without saving. Once you do something, as regrettable of a mistake as it is, you're now stuck with that. And so I was super mad because it was like 3 in the morning and I didn't want to go through the hassle of building it up again. I did because, my whole economy was pretty much based on oil at the time. And so I had to take out a couple of bonds in order to do so. And I kind of cut into my oil profits here by quite a bit. So that was pretty frustrating. And I thought that that was one of the major drawbacks of having all the information on the cloud. Because a lot of people, when Maxis was announcing it would all be on the internet, a lot of people were against having their data on the cloud just out of principle, I think, or maybe that the servers could go bad like they did today. But another major drawback is that you can't exit without saving. And so I think that really limits what you're able to do, and it limits your creativity, and it also makes it so if you do something regrettable, like accidentally blow up your oil field, you're stuck with that. So that's frustrating. That was frustrating. And it's also frustrating that I'm stuck with this Department of Transportation, because I thought it would be cool to build streetcars and stuff like that, and maybe buses, but right now, since my city is the only city that I've been working on, it's not very useful yet, so I wouldn't recommend starting with transportation. Department of Safety, maybe Department of Utilities, or Education would be the three I'd start with. Okay, moving on. Another thing that I don't like is that if you want to bulldoze a road, it will bulldoze every building on both sides of that road. So I'm going to press escape here so I don't actually do that. But if I, like in the old SimCity, if you wanted to make this into an avenue, into a divided avenue, you could just bulldoze the buildings on one side and leave the other side intact. But with the new version, you can't do that. And also, you'll see I have an extra. Here, I better actually click it so I don't bulldoze the whole works again. This is how you would go about bulldozing just a single pump jack. You would click it, and then you could bulldoze just the one. I don't know why they did that. I don't know who was in such a hurry to bulldoze the whole thing. So I don't know why there has to be a certain way to do that. But anyway, another thing, I had to build this road out way longer than it needed to be. And if I bulldoze this chunk here, even though it's silly and it's not doing anything, as you can see, it would bulldoze that pump jack too. And, maybe if I did it now it wouldn't, but anyway, oftentimes it'll end up like that. You'll end up with an extra a little guy at the end there. So that was another frustration. Another thing as well is some of the details in the graphics aren't as nice as I thought they would be. I know this really doesn't matter to a lot of people, but I'm really detail oriented, and I thought that they have an option where you can build the dirt road out from here, and if you do that, it looks pretty cool. So if I wanted to build it like this, for example, and try to do it without blowing anything up. If I did it like this, it seems cool. It seems like it would work just fine. But then you can see it kind of does that. And it would still work just fine. I could still, if I built it out, I could still put an oil rig right here. But why it does that like that, I don't know. It looks really sloppy. So actually, I could have had this oil well right up abutting this road, but I didn't because there was a big square of green grass, like a real nice square, not nice, but like clean, like a piece of paper or something, of grass on top of this parking lot. So one other thing in terms of graphics too, I have parks here, and it's really cool. They have these tree-lined walkways. And pretty much all the nature parks are walkways of some kind. But they're not designed to the same standard that the preset road grids are. You can see it's not quite long enough, so you kind of have to fake it. So if I wanted to build another one, pull up my nature parks, I'll get to why you want these in a second, but they don't, you have to like snap them to one road or the other. They don't quite make it on both. And I'm sure you could build your roads so they did, but it would be pretty difficult to do that because when you do build roads, they have these guides. I'll check the guides here. And it's really easy to snap a road on here. See, I'm not even trying to keep my mouse on it. But if you wanted to build it like a couple inches away, I think it would be much harder to do that with any type of accuracy. So that's just details. Another thing Again, you can't undo any mistakes. I think I already talked about that. Um, and I don't know who would be in a hurry to delete this whole thing, why you can't just delete one at a time without going into the fire station or in this case, the oil well itself. But anyway, that's its own thing. One other thing I thought was a little bit frustrating is that the budget seems to cater to newbies. It seems like they did a lot of things in the game to cater to new players. Like, I'm generating a huge amount of tax income right now, and I don't even have that many houses. At least I don't think I do. I think, it's actually pretty small if you look at my zones. And it's a fair amount, but from the standards I'm used to, it's not all that much. And yet I've never had to worry about my budget once. I could build anything and everything I wanted to. And I think it's a lot harder to get in the red in this version than it was in SimCity 4. And there's other things that cater to noobs too, like you'll go to your city hall and they'll want to have Maxis Man, which is supposed to be their like good guy superhero. And it's kind of like the game is designed for 14-year-olds or something. I don't know. It's probably cool for some players, but for the experienced SimCity player, I think it's a little bit cheesy. Couple more things that are frustrating. This is a really small city size. I know it's been said again and again and again. And I'd like to be one of the guys who thinks like, oh no, you can, you should still play it with it and it's fine, just work with the game. But, it is really limiting for two reasons. The first reason is that it really makes your goals conflicting. Because on one end, it's cool because it forces you to demolish stuff and upgrade stuff. But at the same time, when demolishing stuff is going to cost you, 100,000 simoleons to rebuild whatever it was that you demolished before, it really makes it conflicting. If I were to demolish this, if I wanted to build it again, my trade depot, it would be like 60,000 simoleons. And so it's not like in the old SimCity where you could just demolish your hospital and then build another one, and it's no big deal. It's definitely a big deal. And so it's like the game wants to play for the easygoing player, like the guy who wants to just plop something up, build the road and not really care about it. But if you inevitably do have to care about where things are, and that's a problem because it gets really expensive to replace what you've already done. And so, also, one other thing, I know that they made the small cities, one of the justifications are that, well, you can see what every sim's doing, and that's so cool. If I hit play here, just hit 1, get it going at slow speed, I could click on any player, like any guy, I could see, what they're doing. Oh, I clicked the building, but if I zoomed in, I could do that, and it's supposed to be like the coolest thing, heavy truck going from one place to the other, and that's cool, but it's kind of unnecessary. I mean, it's cool. It's kind of like the same idea as SimCity Societies, and I like that it's detailed and accurate. But I don't need to know all that stuff that's going on. I don't know if it makes a difference, if it would make the developers be able to build the city any bigger. But I think if it were even double the size, I wouldn't need to be 4 times the size. But I mean, if it were, it would be really cool. Then it would seem more realistic with how big of a downtown I have in such a small city. But I just thought that was a bit unnecessary, even though that was their goal. And lastly, one other thing that's conflicting, you can already see that my zones is in the red, which means it's terrible, like something terrible is happening. And I always get demands like that I need more residential workers, and I also need more industry. Residential workers, I understand, I have a lot of businesses and stuff, but it gets to the point like, since I have a big oil patch over here, I don't really want to develop that area. So I kind of design my neighborhood around that, looking out for the long term. And then, I have all these things like a sewage dump and a garbage dump and all this stuff. And so, it kind of begs the question, well, how much can I really expand? And I guess in a way it kind of forces the player to build out into other cities. but it just seems kind of crazy that my demand is so high and that it's like the worst thing that's happening on my tabs right now. But anyway, that's about it. I definitely covered everything that I wanted to cover. Um, largely because I had a lot of time to cover it because I couldn't get onto the server earlier today. And because of that, maybe the next time I make a video, it'll be of a different city because I might change servers. Since I'm in Korea, it might make a lot of sense to do the East European or maybe the Oceania server. Since they're the same distance away as the North American server. But I don't know yet. I hope that they expand their servers and make them or give them a larger capacity. But I don't know about that. So if I want to play on Saturday afternoon, I don't want to be competing with someone who's up at like 11 p.m. playing the game because that seems like a peak time. After work, after dinner time. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching.